hang on. I can't hear. Sound. It's going to be sound.
All right, so maybe we got this. Got me?
Oh, cool.
All
so
right.
It was me.
Yes, no, it's usually me on my side. Okay, yeah, I got all ready to start. I got my camera hooked up. Well, great. So Russell, nice to meet you.
Yeah, hi, Jody. Lovely to meet you. Am I the only one on the show here, or?
It looks like it. I'm not sure at this time and being in the middle of summer if people couldn't come, but I have quite a few people that said, oh, send me the replay.
Oh my God. I've got up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Wow.
Oh, wow. Oop, I lost your volume. I lost your volume.
Your sound. Do you want me to put headphones on?
I'm getting a little
Just
bit of a delay, so it might be helpful.
Yeah, it's easy as. Oh. Now, give me a look. Is that better? Hello?
Yeah, I think that, there we go.
Oh, perfect. Oh, wonderful. Now, on my screen, I can see a big me. I don't want that on the thing. Crikey.
Well, it kind of.
What do you got?
Yeah, when it records, I see you big, and then you see, hopefully maybe see me big, but however, it records it. So.
I see you. Scary.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I wonder if there's an option here. Give me a look out.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put the recording, and I appreciate everybody listening to the first part of this. We're getting some technical things worked out. All right, well, thank you, everyone. There's a lot of people that requested this by replay, and so we're doing it in the morning. And so sometimes, it's just kind of in the middle of people's workday and they can't get to it. So a lot of times that helps me know whether I should make it more in the evening and not during the day. So it's always I'm collecting to find out what's best. And it's also summertime, so people could be traveling. And I'm doing this right before I set off on a travel to Yosemite. And so I figured it'd be fun to put a virtual background of Yosemite up. So in lieu of that trip coming up. So thanks for joining. And we have one participant today, which is me and Russell were talking, and he's from Australia. So it's really fun to have this platform available so that we have lots of people that we can reach and really share this information on how to get your health and happiness back. So I appreciate that. So I'll go ahead and get started. So I wanted to-
Hold on.
Sure.
Sound is dropping out there, Jody.
Okay.
It's okay now, but it just comes in and out.
Yeah, I noticed that your connection sometimes is a little bit strange. So
oh, I'm in Australia. All is explained.
Yeah. So maybe you'll want to watch the replay
cool.
if you missed something.
Yeah, no drama. That's cool. Thanks.
Yeah. All right, so I thought I'd start with my story. And so right now I am in Arizona and I am taking care of my parents. Oh, and we have someone else that's joining us just now, so that's great. So again, like I said, I'm in Arizona taking care of my parents. And the reason I wanted to do this on Alzheimer's is because my mom has Alzheimer's and she's actually had it since 2011. And Russell, you might want to put your mute button on so that we don't, so the recording is really good, that might help. And then we'll have you ask questions later if you have questions.
Thanks.
Usually the mute button's at the far right or far left corner, sorry. There you go. All right. So anyway, so she's had Alzheimer's or cognitive memory loss since 2011. And here is her story, basically. So in 2010, she traveled to Africa, and she was doing some missionary trips over there. And so she had to get some shots in order to go. And so she got yellow fever, and she also got, I think, yellow fever, and there's one more, probably malaria. And the lady looked at her chart and said, oh, well, you also haven't had tetanus. And my mom said, no, I don't want to do too many shots at one time. So please wait on that. Well, the nurse did not listen, and she gave her a third shot, which was also the tetanus shot. So she went over there, and it sometimes is hard to eat, real good when, the African people are feeding you food, and it's their natural flair, and they're used to maybe what they eat, but she did get a hold of some parasites. And so those parasites went to her stomach, and a lot of times parasites will block the B complex or any kind of B vitamin that your body has. And so B is involved with good memory and keeping, all the brain healthy and stuff like that. And so that impacted her with the memory also. What she noticed on the trip is that she started having trouble counting money, and she has always done accounting her whole life. And so it was kind of strange for her to really struggle with counting money and keeping track of it. So in 2011, we decided to get her checked. And so we had her have a cognitive test. And so there are several layers of tests that you can do with a therapist to find out how much a person is being able to comprehend. And so she did a very extensive test that was for 4 or 8 hours. And she came back, she's like, oh, it went really well. I said, I knew everything was great. And so then, let's see. But when we sat down with the gentleman, he said, she did struggle in certain areas, and it really frustrated my mom, because she's like, she didn't realize that she had done that. So the other thing is that she started saying statements that didn't make sense to her. And I'm sorry, I sometimes forget to include my chat. So Russell is saying that there's no sound on his sign. Can you hear Jody? Okay, so thank you, Lisa, for chipping in. So it looks like Russell may be having some problems. So Russell, if that is the case, you might want to see if you do go off mute, if you just might help be able to hear. So you might try that. Oh, you can't hear me. Let me see if I can put that in the chat. So hold on, guys. Okay, so let's see if he gets that to try to go off mute, and see if that will help him be able to hear a little bit better. And Lisa, he's from Australia, and so there is kind of a Zoom trying to go through internationally. And I don't get that I wonder if I can unmute him. Let's see. See if that will work. No, all I can, okay, so Russell, can you hear me now? Did I put you off unmute? I wanted to see if that would help you be able to hear better. Doesn't look like so Russell, can you hear me at all? Can you hear me? Doesn't look like he can. I wonder if we may have to start over. I hate to do that. Russell, yes, I can hear you, Jody. Okay, great. So he can hear me. Sometimes sometimes Russell, your screen freezes. So, but if you can hear me, you're not creating a lot of background noise. So let's see if we can continue. So, all right. So I was in the middle of my mom's story. So she started saying statements that were kind of strange. And so we would talk about, the housing market that had crashed in 2008 and 2009. And we said, oh, those houses are underwater. Okay. And so and she's like, oh, they're underwater. When was the flood? And I said, no, there wasn't a flood. It was, trying to explain mortgages. And then I asked her if she could pay visas. And I said, have you paid the visas? And she's like, oh, are we going on a travel trip? And I said, no, it's the visas. So we noticed there was something happening at 2011 with just her comprehension and understanding things. So in 2012 is when we got the comprehension test. And that's when, the doctor said that, yes, there was some issues there. Okay. So through QT, we were able to discover how she got it, why she got it, and then find out ways that we could help her be able to live as happy and healthy as possible. So that's kind of the story that I've been living in, and she is still healthy and happy today, and it's 2021. So it's been 10 years. So I just want to check in. It looks like, Russell, you are frozen on my screen, but it looks like hopefully everything you can hear us and everything is fine. So you might just give me a text in chat that everything is going fine, so I can make sure that we're good. Okay. So I wanted to start with the story first so that you would kind of understand why I'm introducing this topic. So I'm Jody Colegrove, and I'm a health and healing coach, and I use muscle testing and a modality called quantum techniques, which is energy medicine. And I do also EFT to help people get their health and happiness back. And I've been doing it for 15 years now. And it's really rewarding to help people be able to get their health and happiness back and to find answers why. Sometimes we go, well, why is this happening to me? And we're not really sure. So, so it looks like Russell dropped out, so maybe he'll rejoin. So that will be helpful. So Lisa, thank you for helping with that. And thank you for being here today. Okay, so being a health and healing coach, I work with many different things. I think I specialize in digestive issues, sleep issues, and anxiety, which a lot of times is kind of a trauma. And so we help people find out, what food toxins and what allergies are bothering them. We help with diabetes and hypertension. We help with fibromyalgia, weight loss, relationship issues, just to name a few. But it's kind of just anything that you come up with. And we just a lot of times find that when we work with people that they go, hey, that really helped. My pet's not doing well. Can you work with them? And so we start becoming, doing lots of modalities. So it's really fun to be able to work like that and to help people. So I appreciate you joining today and wanting to learn more about your health and happiness. And my goal is to empower you with knowledge and the desire to never give up on your health and happiness, and to always strive and to never surrender to be less than what you deserve and what God gave you for your natural body's healing. And so that's kind of my mission, is to never give up, never surrender, because it's important for you to have your health and to really strive for that. All right. So hopefully Russell will join us. And if he doesn't, we will have a replay of this. So the topic is Alzheimer's. How is it impacting your life and what you need to know? I think one of the best books ever written on Alzheimer's is Dale Bredesen's book, The End of Alzheimer's. And I didn't bring the book with me today to show, but it's Dale Bredesen. Okay, no problem, Lisa, thanks. So no problem. So Dale Bredesen, the name is spelled Bredesen. Okay, so that's his book. And there's just so much knowledge he has in that book. It gets a little technical in the middle, but it really does have a lot to say. So one of his things is he says that Alzheimer's is like a home or a house that has 36 holes in it. And so you think about, trying to figure out what all those holes are that are making up the whole system or issue of Alzheimer's. And he says that's the best way to look at it, because you can't just do one thing and solve everything, because there's other holes that keep happening. So a lot of times you hear amyloid plaque, and everybody over the age of 40 has it. And a lot of times people think of it as a bad thing, but what he has found is it is a protector of the brain from inflammation and also insults. So we find that because with quantum techniques, we can find out what the toxins are that your body's dealing with. And those toxins create inflammation. And so using these two kind of protocols together helps us to be able to find out what's causing the 36 holes in the roof and to start being able to plug them. One of the other illustrations that he has is that a lot of times what you need to do is a buckshot to try to fill the holes, which is kind of what he's saying. And a lot of times people are dealing with Alzheimer's, like the pharmaceutical companies, with a bullet. So they're trying to fill a single hole with a single drug or a single behavior or a single modality, but there's 36 holes. So we need to address it as a whole. And so that's why I love quantum techniques, to be able to find what are all the toxins, what are the pathogens, what are the parasites and the fungal that's all encompassing those 36 holes and creating that roof issue. So they, like I said, Dale Bredesen's book really marriages a lot about what we do. And that's why I like it so much. And it's really been helpful for my mom. So let me just kind of explain Dale Bredesen's different types of Alzheimer's. So he has type 1 is called inflammation. So that happens typically at age 60. And the amyloid plaque is protecting the brain from inflammation, which are things like foods, sugars, herpes, limes, fungal, mold, bacteria, pathogens, leaky gut. And it is like living in a police state where the protection, I'm trying to make sure this makes sense. So they're protecting they're doing the protection, but people may get hurt because they can't watch them all, okay? And that's kind of the idea of that 36 hole in the roof. And so C-reactive protein is increased. So type 2 is called atrophic, and that usually takes place around age 70. And it decreases the absorption of vitamins, minerals, and hormones. And it's the shrinking of the hippocampus. And vitamin D decreases. And it's caused by menopause, sometimes also a hysterectomy, because that kind of gets everything going. It's also going to be caused by thyroid functioning or defunctioning, not working well. It's like a company downsizing. And so you only keep the stuff, memories, and there's no room for others. And it's like, which are basically new memories. So they're downsizing their staff. And so you just kind of have to get rid of things. So what it can't, certain areas of the brain just kind of cuts off because it doesn't have the memories for that. And you think about, if you're not getting vitamins, minerals, that's what's happening. So you're not able to support the structure of the brain or hormonal support for the brain. So in short-term memory goes, but keep long-term memories. So a lot of times you'll experience brain fog, memory loss, and can't do things as well as you used to, and you can't remember. And the trophic gives support to help the cell survive. So that's why he calls it atrophic. So, and so a lot of times what it's called is amyloid protein. And so a lot of times you hear that, and that's kind of that trophic part, which is trying to help to keep the cells survive. Now, he says there's also a middle combination part, which is type 1.5. And that's where you have inflammation plus atrophic. And what they describe, and along with a lot of other researchers in this field, like Dave Palmetter and Dr. Amen, it's called type 3 diabetes, because you have all this inflammation, but then you also don't have the vitamins and minerals to support the brain function in the first place. So those are combined. Then type 3 is called toxic, and that usually starts at age 50. So it's kind of like early onset Alzheimer's. And that's where the brain makes amyloid to protect itself, or as a protection. And because it's been exposed to toxins. And so those are things like mycotoxins, which are mold in your environment, mold. There's something called urotoxins, which is in the urine. And so a lot of times people who have Alzheimer's also have a lot of bladder infections because the urinary system is not functioning well. Now, at Quantum Techniques, we also found that the whole sinus cavity are also related to the urinary system. So if you're in a moldy environment, then your sinuses are going to be infected and also your urinary tract. So it's kind of interesting how it all kind of connects. Other things are limes, lots of chemicals, heavy metals, EMF, which is electromagnetic, biotoxins, ADT, aluminum. Issues can start showing up in the executive function of the brain, like planning, work functions, problems with organizing, calculating, a lot of depression, starts at a younger age. And a lot of times this shows up with accounting, like we mentioned before with my mom. Lewy body dementia would also be in this category. I had a friend of mine whose mother had Lewy body dementia, and she would kind of react or respond negatively and hurt people, emotionally with their words and things like that, and strike out. And like 4 days later, she's like, "I'm sorry I did that. I didn't mean to." And so she had some awareness of what she was doing, but not in the moment. And so you can see how those toxins kind of can go in and out and make you more cognitive at certain times and less at others. It can show up in the temporal lobe and the bipartisan lobes. And it's hardest to treat, but it's easier with QT because we can find out what the toxins are they're impacting and start getting those out of the body and getting the body to recognize that there's a toxin there that it needs to work with and heal. The immune system is trying to do its job. And I think sometimes we get mad at the body because of what it does, but it's trying to do its job. It's trying to protect the parts of the brain that it wants to keep the organs functioning and everything going in the body. And so it says, well, we need to shut down certain areas because of all these toxins. So we're just going to keep the basics. So we need to find what the exposure is. So if you're in a building with mycotoxins and mold, we need to know that and then get you out to a different place so that you don't have that continuous exposure. So find it, correct it, and make sure that there's no new growth of plaque that's happening because of toxins. So everyone over the age of 40 probably should get tested to find out where you stand as a tendency for a future for disease. Now that may be something you want to do or not, but it does help to know through Bredesen's book, hey, what are my chances? What do I need to do? And in some ways it helps you then want to be better. So in other words, if you know that a donut is going to really tox you and you know that you have this propensity for maybe going down that road, then you're like, hey, maybe that doesn't interest me that much to eat it because I know the future consequences. And so it's not something that once you find out, it's like, that's the way it's going to be. You just need to be aware that this is something that to watch and take care of. And that, we kind of feel at Quantum Techniques that just because it's in your genes doesn't mean that that's the way it's going to play out. There's just so much healing that can take place and things that can be involved. So that's where I think the hope is there. So what you're looking for is the APOE4 gene. And if you have one copy of it, you have 30% more likely to have Alzheimer's. If you have two copies, then you have 50% more likely to have Alzheimer's. And so just knowing that helps you know how to eat better and take care of yourself. And it helps you know what herbs you can go to. And I'll discuss that in just a little bit. So it's important to know what is causing the inflammation. So it can be genetic, like we just talked about, and that's good to know. It could be your diet, what you're eating, and what you're being exposed to in your environment. And it can also be diseases that you've had. My mom had, I'm trying to remember it right. I'm sorry. And it's going to evade me now. But anyway, if there's any brain viruses and things like that, that can cause a damage to the brain, then you know that you may have a propensity there because of that disease. So type 1 and 1.5 and 2 makes all the cells more inflamed, okay? And so we need to stop that inflammation by adding vitamin D, curcumin, wild blueberries, and there's a brand which is Hyman's, which I think, or Wyman's, which is out of Maine, which is wild blueberries. And they are able to, when you eat those, they're able to help clear the heavy metals from the body. Let's see, I'm sorry, it's not oregano, it's cilantro. Cilantro also can help clear the body of, I'm sorry, my son is behind me so you can see his arm. All right, so, but those help, cilantro helps clear the heavy metals from your brain also, and green tea. So the Bredesen protocol is about a 3 to 6 month program where they do your genetic testing, and they test a bunch of your blood and find out kind of what your issue is, and find out what specific herbs and vitamins would be helpful for you to help support your genes that you have. And I had that done, and it's been really helpful because it really helped me narrow in on which different herbs and things like to take. And he found that I was a little bit deficient in vitamin D. And so we increased the vitamin D, and I'm glad that I had that going through 2020. So you want to remove the reason why the amyloid is there, and then start taking steps to work towards healing. So that is the goal. So that's kind of what the Bredesen protocol is all about. And there's doctors all around the US that if you look up Bredesen protocol in your town, you might be able to find a doctor that does that kind of work. But yeah, that's what we've done, is we worked with a doctor that does that, and it's been really helpful. So the next one I'm going to cover, that's a doctor that's really helping people understand Alzheimer's, is Dr. Daniel Amen. And we did have my mom go to their clinic and do a whole workup, and they have you kind of ingest something that is kind of coats the brain so they can take a picture of it. And they take it in many different ways. And if they're showing, it's different than a CAT scan, different than a PET scan. It's a brain mapping scan. And it's showing how the body lights up or doesn't light up when you have stimulus. So a lot of times they'll ask you questions, and they will be able to find out whether the brain has energy that goes to that area to answer it, or whether it retreats when you ask the question. So that was really helpful. And so in my mom's mind, you know, when you think about when you ask somebody, well, what's your phone number? They go, I don't know, I can't think of it. Then that's where your energy is actually retreating from the brain. It's not giving you blood to be able to answer the question. So it's very interesting to watch and understand that that's what was happening to my mom. So he's all about limiting toxins also. And the way we detox in our body is we detox first by, the way he says it is we detox through the liver, the kidneys, and skin. With quantum techniques, we know it's colon, lymph, liver, kidneys, saliva, lungs. And so we have kind of like many different organs that detox, but he concentrates on those 3. So he says there's 11 risk factors, and he called them bright minds, was the way he termed it. And so each of the bright minds, each of those letters represents something. So the B represents blood flow. So getting exercise to the brain is really important. Then R is retirement and aging. He says a lot of times people, you know, when they retire, they just kind of, you know, check out and don't do things. And he says, no, you really need to re-engage the brain and continue to learn things. And so that's why you'll hear people a lot of times do activities and computer games, or you'll have people, you know, learning calligraphy, or taking a dance class, or learning how to play an instrument, or the piano. And all those are regenerating those brain synapses to keep them going. And so that's a way of staying healthy. I is for inflammation, and it's important to take omega-3 and take enough of it. This is something that we really learned through the Bredesen protocol, is we were taking it, but we actually needed to double the amount that we were taking for it to actually be helpful. G is for genetics, so we talked about that. H is for head trauma. You know, I didn't mention that, but you know, meningitis is what my mom had, and so that was a disease of the brain, and so that kind of made her brain more susceptible to things. But you can also have a brain trauma like comas and things like that. And one of the things that quantum techniques, we have a coma clearing scan that we do to help with that and clear the body, be able to reconnect those different places in the brain that have been impacted by a coma. All right. T is for toxins. M is for meditation. You know, we do need to have a spiritual practice. And so that can be walking in the woods and being able to be out in nature. It can be meditating, yoga, whatever really nurtures you. And I have a note here that says loving kindness, purposeful thinking, stress management, and don't believe every thought you have. If you do something wrong and you say, I'm stupid, that really doesn't help you have really good, thoughts. And it really helps you not be able to reconnect. So it's important to not have that. My son needed to hear that today. Just thought I'd throw that in there. All right. But Dr. Amen calls that the ants. In other words, when we have ants that make us think certain ways, sometimes, we don't always have to believe everything we think. So the next I is for immunity and infections. So making sure that you do have always clear body infections and brain infections, clearing viruses, bacteria. And that's one thing that we do at Quantum Techniques to make sure that, hey, if you're having an issue in a certain area, what is it that we need to clear? N is for neurohormones. So thinking about estrogen and progesterone, thyroid, DHEA, and testosterone. So it's important to have those measured to make sure if everything's in balance and what you need to do. And D is for disability. And so he says, that disabilities can be obesity and things like that. So making sure that you take care of eating well, exercising, not having too much weight on, and things like that. And S is for sleep. So that's how he puts it, as bright minds. All right. So Lisa had to leave because she said she thanks you so much for the insight. And so I will keep recording so that we'll have this, because there's quite a few people that wanted to have this recording and sent to them. All right. So my mom's story, as I mentioned, that she had genetics that really impacted her, and she got meningitis. She got shots. She got a parasite when she was traveling in Africa. And then later, after she came back, she also cleaned a church, and she was supposed to put a mask on because there are a lot of chemicals, and she didn't. And so what happened is those inhalants, those toxins, got into her brain that was already being impacted by all the other things before. So it was almost like a 1-2 punch. And so she got type 1.5 Alzheimer's, or type of Alzheimer's. And what we discovered through QT is how can we make life better? And so that's what we strive with. So we make sure that she has no sugar, no wheat, and no soda. Soda seemed to really impact her. When she was early in life, she liked to do diet soda, and that's really harmful to the brain. And it also, not only the aspartame is bad for the brain, but also the corn syrup. And so we make sure that she doesn't have any soda because of that. When she would eat these things, what would happen is that she'd become very angry, and the neurotransmitters would fire incorrectly. And so she'd be very angry and frustrated. And so we'd have to deal with that. And so we found that when we took those off, she was happy and healthy and enjoyed life and had lots of energy. And it was very interesting, just recently, my dad, took her to go out to breakfast, and then gave her, someone gave her an Ensure. I think it was my dad, gave her an Ensure, and then gave her like a pot pie, a cooked meal at dinner. And he called and he said, I'm not sure what your mom is, but she's really mad. She's really frustrated. She's not cooperating. She's not going to bed. And so I'm just, let me know what's happening. So sure enough, I cleared all those toxins, heavy metals, chemicals from all that processed food. And sure enough, within like 10 minutes, she was happy and healthy and would go to bed. So it's amazing how much we can shift that. And I'm just so grateful that I have Quantum Techniques to be able to help my mom with that, and for others, that are going through that. Herbs that are very helpful is, or I should say, herbs are very good to help to find out what she should take, and vitamins to help support the brain and clearing things as much as possible. And the coconut oil, people have had lots to talk about that really does help clear out some of those toxins in the brain, and having proper nutrition. And so we really worked at having more healthy protein shakes that tested for her, like pea protein instead of, let's say, maybe the whey protein, and what things to put in it that really helped her be able to have good nutrition. But that's really a key, because if their brain is being starved by not being able to absorb vitamins and minerals, then she needs to have that. All right. So what are the tools that can help you as help you or a loved one go through this? So the first one is education. Reading books like the Bredesen, Paul Metter, Mark Hyman. Those are all books that really address it, and they address nutrition and how to take care of yourself. With QT, you can learn what the cause is, what caused it, what's involved, and what you can do. And I think that's very empowering, because then you're not lost. You have a path that you can take to get to where you need to be. What can you do to prevent the disease, or I'm sorry, what can you do to prevent it? So you can decrease your toxins. So the biggest things that create toxins in our life are detergents, and from our laundry detergents, like from our laundry detergents, and also dryer sheets, and then the perfumes, the things that we put on our body, and all the products we put on our body, and the perfumes that are on their body. It's very interesting. We had a care worker that came to take care of my mom. She had lots of toxins. So we explained that my mom, were trying to keep no toxins off of her and away from her and in her environment, and that she had a lot of toxins on her, and what could she do? And she realized that she had moved into a home that had been skunked, and it was actually and so she needed to cover up the skunk smell. So she bought everything she could think of that had smells in it. So her laundry had smells, that she had Glade plugins, she had all this stuff to kind of cover up the smell. And so we explained to her that that's actually toxing her. And so it's best to actually find a natural way to do that. And so there's lots of things that you can do with air fresheners, like ozone machines and actual air fresheners that really help clear those toxins, and also smells out of the air, instead of adding to it and just covering it up, which is kind of interesting, because that's what QT does. Instead of finding out or just covering up with, here, take this and we'll get rid of it, or it'll cover up the symptoms, what you're doing is we're finding out, hey, why did it start in the first place, and then getting rid of it out of the life and see if there's something else that you can add. So it's a good lesson there. What foods not to eat, and that's really important. So that's the thing that quantum techniques can test and find out. And do everything you can to take care of your immune system, so that you don't get a large accumulation of viruses and bacteria. And so I have a mastermind that I teach on how to have a strong immune system. And so you're welcome to send me an email and say I'm interested in the Immune Mastermind, and I can send you some information on how to sign up for that when I teach that mastermind. And my email address is jody@quantumtechniques.com. The next thing you can do is to decrease heavy metals in your body, and don't add to your heavy metal load. So those are things like eating processed meals. We were getting HelloFresh for a while and trying that, because all the food tested well, but a lot of times the sauces and things like that they had us add had a lot of chemicals in it, and it was starting to impact us. So we had to stop that. But eating things like tuna a lot of times has a lot of heavy metals. And so finding out, how often can you eat tuna and have it not impact you, is their heavy metal load. Making sure that, your dental amalgams, that if you have a lot of them, find a biological dentist and talk to them about what it would cost to have them removed. I was amazed, I had I had a couple, and I was amazed how it wasn't that expensive to get that removed. And I'm really glad I did, so that I didn't have that also in my body impacting it. And then limit the amount of anesthesias and medications that you take, because all of those add to our chemical and also heavy metal load inside our body. And I've been amazed over the last year and a half that how much anesthesia has impacted people's immune system and made it so they don't function, so they were more susceptible to getting what we've had to deal with in the last year and a half. So it's really important not to have any anesthesia that you don't need, and to really, almost get second opinions if that's something that really need. And there's so many other ways you can take care of things if it's something that can be simply taken care of by, better nutrition and things like that. So we always find out, like, why is something not functioning, and seeing if there's a better way to take care of it. So make sure your body is detoxing and functioning well, and that detox system is working. Also clearing traumas. We all have a propensity to, as we live life, to gather traumas, and those traumas can impact us. And so we need to be aware of when they're impacting us and why they're disrupting our life. and to be able to know how to clear them. So I also have a mastermind that I'm teaching on traumas. And so you can send me an email at jody@quantumtechniques.com. And I can put in there that you're interested in the trauma mastermind. And when I teach that next, I can send you some information. Also, it's important to do the QT basic codes. And we have basic codes that you can read every day or whenever a situation shows up. And those are for viruses, bacterias, ingestants, inhalants, contactants, and injectants. So those are things that you can come across anytime. And you figure, sometimes don't realize if you get a sunburn, that's an injectant. If you burn your tongue on something hot, that can be an injectant. And so there's lots of things you can just do to help your body every day clear. And so on our website, I can send you those. So again, you can send me an email at jody@quantumtechniques.com and I can send you the QT codes. And so I can send that to you. So you have that. So you can just, when you think you've come across something you ate bad, you can read it. If you're not feeling so great, you can read the ingestant, the virus bacteria code, and that will help you clear that. So I appreciate you listening today. And so just in closing, I've given you my email address. And so again, you can send me if you want the trauma codes, if you want the basic QT codes, and then if you also are interested in the mastermind on clearing traumas and also clearing or finding out how to have a good immune system and how to have a good pathway to health. So what do I do? We kind of talked about Alzheimer's and what we found, and I've kind of given some great tidbits of what I do. But at Quantum Techniques, we help people get their health and happiness back. Together, I determine why you have a health issue and what we can do about it. So using muscle testing, I find out what the toxin is, like foods or smells, or maybe mold that is impacting your health. I help people with non-healing issues. Those ones where you go, the doctor goes, I don't know, maybe it's in your head. We don't like to hear that, but there is always a non-physical issue that's part of that, but it's not all of it. So we like to find out, what is that issue that's not healing and why? So we can identify, emotions and beliefs that are blocking your happiness. So I would love the opportunity to work with you or someone that is really struggling with their health and happiness and really wants to get some answers. And that's what I love I do. It's like being a detective, and I'm testing everybody to find out why they're having a health issue and what they can do about it. And so for new time QT clients, we have a special of $300 for 60 minutes of testing. And that allows you to kind of get some answers on those health issues that you have and gives you a path of what to take and what to do specifically for you and your body. And then we also are able to give you a code, which I call kind of an acupressure verbal code that you read at the end that helps your body put back into a healing state every time you listen to the recording, because we do record it, and also touch those points or read those points. It puts your body back into that healing state. So ways to connect. And so to learn more, like this Zoom meeting, to find out what would help you. And so I do give this Zoom meeting once a month, and I'm trying to do it on the 3rd week of the month. And I've kind of picked a Tuesday, but I can adjust that if I find that more people need me to change the date. We can do it during the day, or we can do it in the evening. So I'll be adjusting that as need be. All right, so the best way to learn more about Quantum Techniques is to visit the website at quantumtechniques.com. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Jody. My personal one is Jody Colegrove at Quantum Techniques. And we also have a company YouTube at Quantum Techniques. And so we have lots of videos there on different health topics, past Zooms. And so there's just lots of information. If you're looking for a specific topic and what to do, that's a good resource, and to see if that would help you. You can also join my Facebook page, and I have a page which is Health and Happiness Through Muscle Testing. Quantum Techniques also has a page at Quantum Techniques, so you can look for that too. I also have a Facebook group, and pages are different than groups. A lot of times I share a lot of the same information, but in a group, you're able to kind of ask questions and respond to things a little bit better in a group. And so we can have more discussions. And so that's where I list a lot of the masterminds that I'm doing and learning opportunities. And so that's why it's good to belong to the Facebook group. And that's called Health Puzzle Academy, because I figured it's kind of a learning group. So that's why I thought Academy would be fun. So normally I open it up to questions, but we're recording this so that people could listen to it later. And so what I would suggest is send me an email at jody@quantumtechniques.com, and I can answer your specific questions on what you have in regards to anything I've covered here, and questions about Alzheimer's, and maybe give me your specific questions answered. So I would love the opportunity to work with you and to help someone that you know that's really struggling. So I mentioned about the Zoom meeting. And so I think that's everything. So yeah, I look forward to your questions and what you have interest on. And I'm always interested in different topics that you would like to cover. So feel free to say, hey, I haven't thought about this, or I haven't seen any information on this, and that will help me know what you would like me to cover. So I just pray that you have a blessed rest of July and summer. I will see you next month in August. And in the meantime, never give up, never surrender on your health. You want to make sure you have good health and happiness. So blessings, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the day.